If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get by. You help me through somehow, get me through somehow. If I believe that in my dreams I'll always feel your touch, if I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then. Yeah. If I believe I'll hold you in my arms again, I can wait. I know.
Good evening, Somerville. My name is Joanne Revicchio, and welcome to the SOA show. And tonight's guest is Michael. Could you pronounce your last name?
Leggiero.
Leggiero. I don't want to say it wrong.
Everyone botches it. It's all right.
Although I am Italian, I should know. Leggiero. I'm very happy to have you here. I've never met you, but I've been watching different things on Facebook, and Orlando. Actually was working up the high school. I don't know if he told you the situation.
Somewhat. I was going to help him out. I was going to go there and co-facilitate his group that he was having there with him, and then summertime was approaching, and they kind of canceled the program on him.
Right. Well, he was going to work with the casino, so I think that if he hadn't, they probably would have had him continue on.
Yeah.
But what happened was up the high school now, because of all the construction, they took the gym out. So the cafeteria became the gym.
The gym, yeah.
And I'm the manager at the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
So I would go out there and in between and exercise with Orlando.
Nice. You got a little boxing workout?
Yeah, I did. It was funny because in the very beginning, we got to know each other after 3 weeks.
Right.
And I really enjoyed doing it. First of all, it made me fitter.
Oh, it's the best.
But I wasn't really doing. I was doing the boxing, but I didn't. I had to work in between.
Right.
So I did my little workout, my 10, 15-minute workout at least 3 times
That's a good
in
start.
the morning. Yeah, it's a good
that's a good
start. I
start.
feel better. I mean, after all, I'm old.
Yeah.
And I would see the kids there sitting down, like taking it easy and not doing the work, and say, "Come on, look at,
Yeah,
I'm
if
an
I
old
can do
lady,
it.
and if I can do it, you can do
Yeah,
it."
you
You
can
know.
do it.
So yeah, so that's how I met Orlando, and we started to talk, and he had told me his story,
Yep.
and I had lost a son to addiction.
Okay.
My son
Sorry.
Frankie is going to be gone 10 years, November 15th.
Wow.
And then, of course, I have another child that's in recovery.
Nice.
So that's where I got to meet Matt Gannon and everyone. Back then in 2013, Governor Patrick Duvall had said that we had an epidemic. So that's when I met Matt. We had a community meeting,
Yep.
and I met quite a few people. And then after that, I'm just giving you a little history.
Yeah.
2 or 3 months later, we formed our group called Somerville Overcoming Addiction.
Awesome. You guys do
So-
great work. Yeah, I've heard a lot.
6 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
And
amazing.
of course, Matt's still involved.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's still a Somerville Overcoming Addiction person,
Yeah.
but he's so busy.
Well, he's a villain. He's from Somerville, so he's
Right.
got to represent.
Oh, we love him.
Yeah.
I love Matt. Anytime I need anything, I just call him up, and he always answers the phone.
Always. Yeah.
I think that once he didn't, it's probably because he was in a meeting.
Yep.
But call me right after that.
He'll get back to you. Yeah.
He
Matt's
always
great.
does.
And he's devoted. He's devoted his life since he's been in recovery to helping others, and he's good at it. He has
He
an
is very
affinity
good at
for it. He has a passion for it. He's helped me tremendously through just me like early stages and coming to work with Banyan, and he's been like a mentor to me in helping me grow within the treatment field. So I'm grateful for
That's
that.
really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
great.
And he's a really good friend of mine now. So
Right.
Yeah.
So what made you, have you always boxed?
So I was always passionate about boxing, more of like a boxing historian. When I was a child, I just remember like being fascinated with like Mike Tyson, Julio Cesar Chavez, Hector Macho Camacho, Arturo Gatti. Like I idolized those guys. I loved the sport because it was like one-on-one. You don't have like teammates to like who could bail you out if you're in trouble. It was like you versus your competitor. If like you could out-battle him, if you could out-will him, out-power him, then you would come out victorious. So I always liked that aspect
You
of
always
boxing.
want to be on top, right?
You want to be on top,
That's
yeah.
right, or
Yeah.
the first one to win the race.
Right, exactly.
I think most kids are
If
like
you're not
that.
first, you're last.
Absolutely.
Right?
So with the boxing, did you have any other kind of sport, or you just thought that this would be what you needed in order to keep you in recovery? It's got to be one of the things that.
Well, no, I'm pretty active in most sports other than, I mean, I don't really play hockey much. I played hockey, like street hockey as a child, but I've even in recovery, once I got clean, like basketball, I still play basketball at least once a week. I've played at least once a week since high school and beyond high school up until now. While I was actively using drugs and alcohol, I'd play once a week, and now that I'm in recovery, I play at least once a week. I play every Sunday, and then in between, I've played in like sober basketball leagues and all that.
We
for
actually had
basketball.
one,
Yeah.
We
yeah.
did have March Madness
Okay.
at the
yeah.
East Somerville Community School, and we had a lot of different groups come in from different.
Yeah,
just
indoor
like
too. Yeah,
yep.
like indoor. Yeah.
He was amazing for that because he's the one that started the stickball.
Okay.
He wanted us to do it in Somerville, but ended up going into Medford with it.
Okay.
And I said I should have listened.
Oh,
to
the
Matt.
kickball tournament.
Yeah, the
yeah,
kickball
yeah.
tournament.
We play in that every year. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, well, maybe we should have done it.
Yeah.
At first, we thought it wouldn't work, but obviously Matt knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, kickball's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we only did the March Madness once
Yeah.
with the
yeah.
basketball, but So when did you start using?
I started using early on. Not problematic, but I started like binge drinking at 13, 14 years old. I think in between that, like early freshman year in high school, alcohol was pretty prevalent. We would attempt to get alcohol at least once or twice a week. If it was like stealing from our parents' liquor cabinet or trying to get ourselves a buyer, like stand in front of a liquor store and try to attempt to ask someone that's over 21 to purchase it for you, or maybe come up with a fake ID. I remember the place on Mass Ave, they gave you some like really phony looking, you pay them like $60 and you make like a phony ID for you, and it'd work some places, you know. You had to go to like the real like grimy places in like Chelsea and stuff like that, East Boston, Revere. That's where I ran around them from Revere. So yeah, it was.
Oh, you're from Revere?
I'm from Revere. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends in Revere.
Nice. Yeah.
Actually, I was a part of, after I lost Frankie, I lived on the beach for a while.
Okay.
And I used to be a part of the Revere Cares About Prevention.
Oh wow! Yeah, awesome.
Actually, they had a memorial vigil every year.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 4 or 5 years, even after I came back to Somerville. But you know, it was kind of hard to go back and forth.
My friend does a lot of work for the city of Revere now in their substance use disorder department, and he invited me to share last September, probably the similar event that you used to
Matt
coordinate.
has been there.
Yeah.
Matt's come and said his poetry.
Yeah.
I did a poem every year, and then one year I did tell my story. But I always loved their vigils because they do it right on the water.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, beautiful sight.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's when I started to get more involved. And when I came back to Somerville, wanted to have a vigil.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to be our 7th one this year.
Wow. Yeah.
And
where do you hold it?
well, I've held it in different places, but we started off at. Am I interviewing you or are you interviewing me?
Well, whatever you want to do.
No, I thought that was funny. We did it up at Somerville High School.
Oh, okay.
But now, where they're tearing it up, there's just no way that we can do that. So I've been to East Somerville, and last year I did Trumfield, and it was just so windy that we couldn't even show the vigil
Really?
pictures because the screen was really windy.
Wow.
So hopefully this year, I thought about doing it indoors.
Yeah.
But I haven't done anything yet with it, but I will.
Okay, cool. Let me know. I'll show some support.
We did last year. We were a part of the Boston Common.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That was an idea that we at Somerville Overcoming Addiction had brought forth to Mike Duggan, and then Dina and everybody got involved. So we did have one which was very successful, but I guess she's gonna have it in Lowell this year. But I think that I would like to have seen it stay
In Boston, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it makes most sense, but you know, Lowell's that community's riddled with, you know,
A lot of Lawrence, Lowell,
even the nicer communities, Andover, North Andover, they're all affected heavily. The Cape, yeah.
Maybe it should move around from place to place and have it, but it's kind of hard to go all the way up to Lowell.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a trek.
Yeah, but a lot of people do it. They came from
it.
the western part of the state.
Yeah, they'll do it. Yeah.
Last year. But anyway, so now, you said you started with alcohol.
Yeah.
And then you went to.
So alcohol. Well, I started smoking weed. Weed was, you know, I would be a guy who smoked weed if it was around. I never sought it out. I wasn't the guy who went and, you know, met the dealer for weed. You know, if my friend rolled a joint, if my friend had weed on him, you know, and had a pipe, I would smoke along with them. But it didn't really satisfy my craving as the alcohol did. It was more like alcohol was more my thing throughout high school. You know, with alcohol, you know, the next drug of choice was probably like benzos, Klonopin, prescription pills, Valium, Xanax, Adderall. I abused Adderall throughout high school, off and on. Later on in high school, cocaine. You know, partying on the weekends, like sniffing lines. Cocaine became a big thing for me. Opioids didn't come into the picture till after high school. I actually, once I dropped out of high school due to my grades, you know, plummeted. I just wasn't really showing up to school. I wasn't engaged in my academics. I could care less about academics at that point. It was more about I suffered from a lot of things. I suffered from ADHD, so it was hard for me to really concentrate. It was hard for me to obtain like the information that was given to me. I was a hyper kid in high school. I would get in a lot of trouble in class. I would act out in class. So the alcohol on the weekends, like, in a way, it didn't calm me down because I would act out and, like, you know, I would get myself into trouble due to it, but it would kind of make me feel comfortable finally. It would like settle me down. And I abused alcohol, you know, throughout high school. Like I said, dropped out. And then I actually, you know, with having no future, or my future looking like there was no future, no job. I wasn't enrolled in college or anything. I started selling OxyContin. I'm from like the Oxy generation. I'm 34, so right about the time, you know, I was approaching high school is when they became, you know, really big, especially in my community. And I thought that was like my means to, like, you know, obtaining money, accruing things, outside material things, like searching for that, you know, that exterior thing to make me feel better internally. And through that, it was still like, you know, pretty heavy alcohol use, although it didn't really cause any damage. It damaged friendships and stuff like that with, you know, fights and, you know, being out of control and being a liability once, like, I was out in public with them and I was intoxicated, you know, getting kicked out of bars, clubs, arrests, fights, all that good stuff that came with it.
Sounds like a good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
No,
The
but
juicy stuff.
did you feel that you had no future?
Yeah, well, yeah, I felt that way. You know, it was always like a impending doom because up until high school, you know, I performed pretty well in school. I actually got good grades. I was in 9th grade. I was an honor student. My father worked for Bentley University at the time, and his plan for me, my parents' plan for me, was to attend Bentley once I graduated. And like at the time, and you know, when it was a conversation like 8th and 9th grade, like it looked like it could be a possibility because I did perform well in school. And then once like drugs entered the mix, there was just like a shift. There was like a shift in everything. I became dissociated. I didn't really care too much about homework. I didn't care too much about attending class. I was more concerned about like how I can impress my peers, how I could feel accepted. I felt different, and I felt like I needed to like perform, you know, like kind of like perform in order to like gain their attention and love. You know, it's a weird dynamic, but
That happens, though.
it happens. Yeah,
That's
pretty,
just, it's normal.
it's pretty like prominent, like with the disease of addiction.
Right. No, I've noticed it as well because I've worked with kids for a long time.
Yeah.
For 11 years, I did Pop Warner in Somerville.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I've been in the schools for a long time as well. I retired from Verizon like 13 years ago.
Wow.
So I started working for the city like 18 years ago.
Yeah.
In between doing 2 jobs. And, you know, you see the behavior. I mean, I see the behavior in my own children.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of times they don't feel comfortable with the person that they are.
Right.
That they're not going to fit in.
Right.
And I find that a lot of boys have ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it calms them. Some of the drugs that they were taking were calming them.
Right.
And then you see other issues too. Is a lot of people are put on medication like Ritalin.
Right.
So now they're already having a problem with drugs.
Right.
You know, and it's like it's kind of hard for a parent to decide. You know, don't always listen to your doctor.
Right.
You know, you should always find out what the effects would be in the medication that you're giving your child.
Right.
So when they're an 8-year-old, do you want to put them on Ritalin?
No, that's not a chance. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. No.
Well, but they've done it.
They've done it. Yeah.
You know, and one of my children were on Ritalin.
Yeah.
To take care of because they don't want them to act like kids.
Right.
You know.
And sometimes that's all it is, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're acting like kids. Yeah.
They have a lot of energy, and to sit for long periods of time is hard.
Right.
You know, we're all individuals.
Right.
You know? So, from there, how long have you been in sobriety?
Sobriety, May 22nd, 2010.
Well,
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
That's when I got clean.
years.
Yeah, 9 years.
So you were young.
I was 25.
Yeah.
I was 25.
So you
so
started
yep,
drinking
yep.
at 13.
Started drinking at 13. Just progressed. Pills, cocaine, opiates. By the time I was 20 years old, I was a full-blown IV heroin user, IV cocaine user. I'd smoke crack if that was the drug that was presented to me. I've used crystal meth. Pretty much anything that would suffice the craving. Anything that would suffice that obsession to fix the way I'm feeling. Anything that would allow me to feel more free. Because I think that's like the search.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people don't understand how what happens with the withdrawal.
Right. Oh yeah.
And the pain that your body goes through. And actually, someone should probably explain how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I don't know. You hear a lot of times people say it's like the flu time, multiplied by 10 or 20 or 100. I mean, it's even worse than that because, like, imagine feeling like so uneasy and like your skin's crawling, your back aches. There's pain literally coming from every inch of your body. And then that with, $20, $30, $40, it would all go away instantly. And like you won't feel that euphoria probably because you've developed like such a bad habit, but you'll just be okay. And like that anxiety, that depression, like the world feels like it's like crumbling on you, or the world just feels like it's like a tornado. It's like it's indescribable. You can't sleep, you're vomiting, you can't eat, but you're hungry. Your stomach aches. Your bowels are just moving on their own. It's horrific. Yeah, I never want to experience that again, and thank God I haven't.
It takes more than one day.
It takes more than one day. Yeah.
3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing...
The craving's always going to be there for a long time,
yeah, for a long,
but as far as...
I mean, 3 or 4 days if you're doing legit heroin, that was back in my day. There was fentanyl, but we didn't have access to it then. But 3 or 4 days if you're doing like legit heroin. Now, if you're talking like Suboxone, that could be like 2 weeks. I've attempted to kick Suboxone, and that's a pain in the ass. If it was OxyContin, I'd say a good 7 days. If it's methadone, it's probably a little even longer than the Suboxone.
But the craving's still there for the drug.
The craving's still there for the drug. Yeah, and you think about it, you cause a lot of wreckage, you cause a lot of damage, there's a lot of guilt and shame. There's a lot of guilt and shame just in the act of using, I mean, if you grow up like we grew up, I grew up as like a, kind of like God-fearing, like, this is a sin. You're taught like drugs are bad, and since elementary school, you say the drug addict is a loser. You put these titles on the people, junkie, and you say all these like harmful things, and then you turn into that person against your own will, thinking you'll never become that. It's like just the act of using is filled with like guilt and shame.
That's what I always said. That an addict has their own stigma.
Their own stigma, yeah, absolutely.
They don't need anybody else.
They don't need anybody else, yeah.
That's why a lot of people end up using alone.
Yeah. And for the most part, I would say, like, I've had 1 or 2, like, we call them running partners. I've had, like, 1 or 2 here and there. But, like, I was, like, embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be an IV heroin user. I wasn't one of these guys who was, like, content with that life. And maybe that's why I got clean at a young age, fairly young age, because, like, I was always, like, striving to better my situation. I never like gave up on myself, I was never like, okay, this is my destiny. I'm like, this can't be it. This can't be it. There's got to be more. I can't be a slave to this needle. I can't be a slave to this crack pipe. There has to be another way for me. I know God has more in store for me. And like, I know whatever's controlling all of this and making all this happen has way more in store for me. And I'm going to be able to do a lot more with my life than this.
So now is being in a 12-step program?
12 steps is a part of our curriculum, but no, it's more of like a clinical-based program that has a 12-step immersion, which we introduced. 12 steps is a proven solution. I'm a 12-step fellow membership, 12 steps has worked for me for 9 years. I've been a member of a 12-step fellowship since the day I walked in, since the day I got out of treatment, since the day I was at my halfway house. It works. It works for me. It's proven that it works in hundreds of thousands or millions of others. So yeah, we do offer 12 steps, but we offer like so much more than 12 steps. You know, we'll do the CBT route. We'll do
What is that?
cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just ways and means to, you know, change our thinking, change our behaviors by changing our thinking. We offer smart recovery, which is pretty much CBT based. It's all under that umbrella. You know, just all different types of groups. We offer like the neuroscience of addiction, which teaches people who come into our program how the scientific way to approach the disease of addiction, how the disease of addiction really affects our brains and what our using does to our brains and why we act out an obsession and compulsion. So we pretty much run the gamut. It's like we don't take any cookie cutter approach. We're not like, oh, if you don't do the 12 steps, you're not going to stay clean. We say, hey, 12 steps aren't your thing. You may be agnostic. You may be atheist. You can't get down with the higher power. Let's offer you something else.
Right. I was thinking about that too, is that not all people are religious.
No, right. And some people.
And wanted to know, you know, how that would affect them.
Yeah.
But eventually a lot of them do still go back to 12 steps.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like 12 steps for me, it's like I'm not religious, you know, but I believe in God in the form of like spirituality. I believe in energy. I believe if you live by like spiritual principles, you live with integrity, you live with honesty, you live with, you know, unconditional love. You try to love people even when they've harmed you. You know, I'm not always the best at that, trust me. But like, you know, you live in like these spiritual principles and like you're steadfast and you're committed to it. And I don't know, that's just my way I feel. I can feel the presence of a higher power because I change the way I treat others. And the way I treat others helps change my thinking. Mm-hmm. And you know, the most spiritual thing you can do is to, you know, put your hand out to someone who's struggling and say, hey, come with me. Let me show you how this is done. You know, and that's like the most godly thing we can do around here. That's how we experience God. That's how we feel the consciousness. Because there's like an energy in the room when you're sitting with someone and they're like exposing their truth to you and their pain and they're shedding all of it. And you're saying, hey, it's okay. You know, me too. Like, I've done it too. Like, it's okay. But you know what? You don't have to do it again. You don't have to hurt anybody again. You don't have to hurt yourself again.
Do you feel that, I honestly believe that it's good to have someone see someone be successful and in recovery. Therefore, it's easier for them to feel that they can do it.
Right, yeah, that's huge. Like, if it wasn't for my predecessors, like people who have done it before, like I always give credit to my friend Richie, who, when I was like, you know, at a low point in my life, and he's up there like sharing his story and sharing his truth, sharing his experience, sharing what like recovery has to offer. I said, hey, I felt what he was feeling when he felt that way, so I can feel how he's feeling now that he feels much differently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I latched onto that, you know. Because
now, like, let's go back to the stigma.
Right.
You're upset about what you're doing to begin with.
Right.
So so the person that is helping you, that's already gone through that and is in recovery, knows the same feeling.
Exactly.
So then that's one thing that you don't have to worry about.
The stigma's gone. Yeah, the stigma's gone.
So that you can work well with someone else that's been through it, and to know that they've succeeded makes you say, well, if they've done it, I can do it as well.
Right, exactly.
You know, and that's the thing that we have to even introduce to parents, you know. Even though their behavior is not what you would like, but you still have to tell them you love them.
Right.
You know, it's always love and hugging and they matter.
And they're sick, you know, they're sick. They're suffering from an ailment. They're suffering from an illness. You don't tell someone who has, you know, you don't tell someone who has diabetes, you're wrong because you can't eat sugar, or You know, you don't, like, you're not wrong because you can't have alcohol or drugs. You know, you're not wrong because when you do have alcohol or drugs, it can kill you. You're not wrong because, like, if you have too much sugar, it can kill you. You're not wrong for that. You just
Right.
came equipped with that, you know, or you
I am a
developed that.
I am a diabetic.
Yeah, my father is too, so, you
Yeah,
know.
so I do have an illness.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look back and I see all the changes that have occurred in the past 10 years since I've lost Frankie.
Right.
And we are trying to improve everything that we do. And when I went to Banyan, I went to visit Carrie
Yep.
Boyd.
Oh, Carrie Boyd, yeah.
She was,
I love Carrie Boyd.
I was meeting her there for a little bit. And as I approached the door, Matt was outside. He says, Carrie's waiting for you. She's in the back. Well, I couldn't find the back because it's so big.
Yeah,
It's like a
huge
big,
now,
big
yeah.
circle. So I noticed that they started to introduce yoga,
Yoga, yeah.
meditation.
Different ways and means, yeah. Meditation.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own way of recovering.
Yeah. And like you said, like we talked about boxing in the beginning, I incorporate boxing and and it's part of my recovery, really, because I get the same high when I'm training. You know, I get the same high, and actually I get a better high when I'm training, because like there's times where like I want to stop and like I can't. Like I want to stop training because I'm exhausted, but I can't because it feels so good, and it's teaching me all the same things that I incorporate.
Well, you loved boxing.
I love boxing, yeah.
All right, so that it helped you.
It helps me, yeah.
Like my son loves to go to the gym.
Yeah.
That's his way of getting
Yep.
all of that stress
And that I love like the treatment centers like offer that, you know, like offer that alternative way of like healing, because it's very healing. The gym can be very healing to people. And that, you know, and although, you know, people could say, yeah, it's a superficial thing, you know, you're trying to make your body look good, but hey, man, we have to focus on all aspects of our life, mind, body, and spirit,
That's
in
right.
order to get
you have to
better.
love you.
You have to love you, yeah.
So if that's one of those things that's going to help you feel better about yourself, then more power to you.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, some people like to draw. I know people that are in recovery and they paint.
Yep.
So that's their recovery.
Art
As long
therapy,
as you focus on it, your downtime.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do something. To sleep is one thing, to work is another thing.
Right.
But when you have downtime, what do you do during that time?
Right.
That's when people go drinking in a bar.
Yep.
So why not go and play basketball, football, whatever, you know?
Do something you're passionate
That's
about.
right.
Yeah.
And that way it keeps you healthy and clean.
Yeah. And it keeps your mind working too, you know? If your mind's stagnant, you're gonna think about all the toxic things we think about. You know, you get caught up in the trap, the monkey mind, the brain's always moving. This one doesn't like me. This one said this. I don't look good. You know, self-loathing, all this stuff. Look what I said to the person last week. That didn't make any sense. You know what I mean? You get into this thing where like you're listening to like all these made-up things in your mind.
But you know what? The most powerful thing that you can do is listen to yourself.
That's right.
You know, and when you get to that point where, you know, every time you think about, okay, so what did I do today? You know, when you're talking to someone, did I, you know, if you're sorry, say you're sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The only person that can improve you is you.
Mm-hmm.
And if every day you think about your approach to life and how you treat people, did I do the right thing?
Right.
It doesn't matter what people think
Right.
or say. It's up to you
Right.
to decide if you've done a good thing.
That's right.
We all like to go and help people.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Makes you feel great.
Say that? That's good.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I deal with things on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, the more I give, the more you receive.
That's right. Yeah, I
Universe.
believe that. I believe that.
Well, I'm glad you do.
I believe
I'm an
that.
old lady and he believes it. So it must be right.
It must be right.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as like the 12 step, I often wondered about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I did see how long ago was Alcoholics Anonymous formed, like over 50 years ago.
Oh, way over, yeah, in like
Maybe.
in the 30s, I think 1937.
All right, so it's going on an 80 some odd year
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah.
And from that, a lot of people have succeeded.
A lot, yeah.
We have 23 million people in recovery,
Yeah,
but there's still close to 22 million that are still using.
actively, yeah.
So I said to myself, and I was asked not too long ago, how do you feel about the safe injection centers?
How do I feel? Whew, that's a loaded question. Not loaded, but it's a tough question. I think in theory, I think it would help a bit, but it's like, how much access are all the IV heroin addicts going to have to this location, right? So I'm sure, in Boston alone, I don't know what the numbers are, but say you have a facility that can, it would fit 100 people to shoot heroin in safety, right? That's a tiny, tiny fraction of the people that are out there actively
Right.
using. And then what it does is, you keep them actively using, right? And they have no reason to seek treatment. They can go to this place in safety. I wholeheartedly agree that it would save lives, absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, unless you made this building the size of a factory and you had, tens of thousands of workers there overseeing everybody who's using heroin equipped with Narcan, it's like, it would help, but it's going to help put a little dent in it. I don't know. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I think anything.
I was in the beginning.
Yeah, I think anything at this point that's progressive could help. But I think it's more of like, it has to be like a huge community.
Right.
It can't be just a small facility that's the size of like this building where, maybe 100 addicts can shoot heroin in safety.
Is that many out there?
There's probably tens of thousands of people right now in these communities just in the Boston area that are actively injecting heroin.
So in the
injecting
beginning,
fentanyl.
I thought about it and I was against it.
Yeah.
And then after I thought about it, after a while, I said, maybe Frankie would be alive today.
Yeah, and
Right, if he had some place to go instead of going in his room and overdosing.
but if he's gonna choose to go there,
Right.
if he's gonna, I know
get
me.
it.
I know me when I was dope sick, I'm going to the nearest bathroom. If I live in Revere, in the safe injection site is in, wherever. If it's in, downtown Boston, if it's in Government Center, I'm not getting on the train and bus to go to Government Center. I'm getting my heroin in Revere, and I'm going in the Taco Bell bathroom, and I'm getting high.
Is
It's
that
like,
where you went?
yeah, a lot of times, yeah, that's why I brought it up. But yeah, or Burger King in Chelsea, these are the places.
Well, like it was brought up a couple of weeks ago. We had a meeting on it, and I said, well, just think of this. If you did have a facility within the city, you would have people there that would offer services if the person wanted, like a recovery coach.
Right.
That would get as soon as you said, I need help, I don't want to do this anymore, they would get you services.
Right.
Okay, so that's also a part of the safe injection site. And of course, they have Narcan. And where there's so much fentanyl and carfentanil out there, and you don't know, where it is.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're safe.
Right.
So I do agree with it for the simple fact that if they're there, then the needles are not going to be distributed around the parks.
Right.
Yeah, there might be some. A lot of the people won't be using in bathrooms.
Right.
Because they will have a safe place to go to. But like you said, yeah, if I'm in Revere and the nearest one's in Boston, you're going to do it wherever.
Right.
If you're dope sick.
Right. And that I'm saying, but having a facility would help. It's just I don't know if it's going to have this drastic. It's going to help drastically. I don't think it would save lives, absolutely. The more safer places for people to use and having a watchful eye under them, the more resources, because having a recovery coach and being of service to them, even if when they do become ready, is essential, you know, and that should be a key component in that, is like having those resources. But you know, and at the same time, it's like, you know, they're gonna get high there, and they're also gonna leave, and you know, stuff happens in between time as well. But no, I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's a solution. I think it's progress. I think,
Right.
you know,
Whatever we can do to try
whatever
to
we
improve.
could do at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to tell you that I'm very happy that you've succeeded
Thank you.
in
Thank
all
you.
these years of being clean.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And
It means
every
a lot.
day, you know, I know it's one day at a time, but you've already passed that threshold
Thank you.
of at least 2 years you need under
Yeah.
your belt.
Yeah.
You know, and at least you didn't start. You see, I had met Dr. Pote,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ruth.
and,
Yeah. She's amazing. Yeah.
and Ruth had said that, you know, the adult mind is not completely developed until you're 26 years of age.
Okay.
So if a child starts at 13,
Right.
the part of the brain that's her addiction hasn't been formed yet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can feel
So-
that these days.
You know, you have peer pressure.
Yeah.
You know, if we could tell our kids, it doesn't matter what anybody says to you, stay away from drugs,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be a statistic.
Right.
You don't want to lose yourself. I mean, I know that there's been children 13 or 14 years old that have died
It's terrible.
because of drugs.
It's tragic. It's horrible.
It is horrible, and you know, and parents, please, if you always question the doctor and the medication that you are taking, as well as your child. Make sure that it's not addictive. I have friends who will ask me, my doctor prescribed this for me. Should I worry?
Yeah. Right.
You know, and then I would look at, I'm not a doctor, but at least I know
Right.
the difference
signs, yeah.
between, an opioid and a painkiller and
Right.
things that they shouldn't be on, you know. Benzos, no.
Right.
You know,
And that's the thing. I think also, I think there should be more awareness from physicians, is like, oh, if you put someone on, you know, a certain pain medication for X amount of time, maybe set them up with resources, you know, or maybe require them to enter a treatment facility once their, you know, their protocol is finished with their procedure. If it's pain due to like a surgery or something like that, maybe set them up with a, you know, require that to be part of their treatment, is like, you know, treatment for your use of that substance for X amount of days.
right.
Because you don't know what's occurred with
There are
the
just so
mind.
many medications out there. I don't think the doctors take the time to learn what
No.
each one will.
They don't,
I mean, come on, we watch it on TV.
yeah.
Ask your doctor for this drug and
Yeah,
that drug. It's like, oh, I know I want that.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, well, you know, that's basically what happens now. Everything is on advertisement.
Well, you know, a lot of times I come into contact, doctors don't even know what, like, the repercussions that can happen from Suboxone still. You know, and it's been,
Tell you the truth, I think it's a horrible drug.
it's been 15 years later or something, and they still don't know that, like, you know, you're gonna feel the same withdrawal, if not worse, than heroin.
Right.
You know, and they need
Exactly.
it, and it's like, how do you not know that by now? You know, and I don't knock anyone that's on Suboxone. I'm knocking the doctors for saying, you know, not equipping them with the right information and to allow them to, when they want to get off it, to get off it. They don't, you know, they think it's just, oh, give this, it's gonna cure
No.
your addiction here.
Well, same thing with methadone.
Yeah.
You know, you know, it would be good if, you know, if they were able to have the Vivitrol shot.
Yeah.
But then they say the last week of it, it's supposed to be good for a month, but the last week is usually a crucial point where you have to
Yeah.
watch the person that's on it, because,
You can break through it. Yeah. We see that a lot. Yeah.
do you?
Yeah, I mean, just in general. I mean, I know when Vivitrol was new, you would hear, you know, they know the person who's on the Vivitrol knows the exact date where they can, you know, get high, and
Oh,
you know, and
I'm
they'll
learning
feel
that
it.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'm getting
yeah,
educated.
You gotta know, yeah. Well, the street education sometimes weighs probably the same amount as like the book education. You know what I mean? Just having that knowledge of experience of like seeing people do it firsthand, you know, it helps. It goes a long way.
Right. So now we have like 15 minutes to go, and then the show's over.
Okay.
Why don't you give us a little presentation about Banyan and why you choose to work there?
Okay. All right. Cool. Why I choose to work at Banyan. So, I've never I never envisioned working in the treatment field. Um, it was always something that, like, in the back of my mind, I said I could do it. You know, I would enjoy doing it, but it wasn't something that I ever sought after. I worked in, I did retail management for a while. I'm really into like style and fashion and all that, so I thought, you know, I would find some type of career in that, and I did for a while, for a few years, and things happened. Certain things occurred in my life, and I got into a business deal with someone who was supposed to be a friend, turned out to be an enemy. You know, one of those people, and I lost a lot of money investing into you know, what turned out to be a scam by him. So I was left to like pick up the pieces once again, and you know, I had, at the time, 5, 9 years. I had like approaching 6 years clean at the time, and it was the closest I had ever been to like relapse, because I was so stressed out about the money. I had left my job without, you know, I hadn't taken the proper procedure to leave my job. I thought, you know, this was gonna be it. I was gonna be all set. And then my friends, my sponsor actually, and one of my dearest friends worked at Banyan. And I'm not familiar with, like, you know, that type of treatment. I was from the state-funded facilities. I went through like the whole, you know, Danvers cab detox, you know, Lynn TSS, holdings. You know, we don't get treatment really. You sit there and marinate for a month or 2 months.
I like that word, marinate.
You marinate, stew for a few months, and you get into your halfway house. And then when you get into your halfway house, you know, you do a morning group. You go and go on job search or hang out down the Navy Yard in Charlestown, and you know, go to the gym, find a job finally. You know, I did that route, and I went through a halfway house. And so my friends worked there, and I'm like, Banyan, what's a Banyan? Like I wasn't familiar with the private sector treatment. And they were like, it's amazing, you know, we love it here. It's the best decision we ever made. My sponsor worked there. And I was just driving for Lyft at the time, the car service, the car ride service, because I was in between. I'm like, what am I going to do now? I was putting my resume to different retail places to find management jobs. And, you know, I took a shot. I met Matt. I really didn't know Matt well. Actually, back in 2013, Matt and I both spoke at an event in Everett. He did poetry, and I, you know, told my story. And I didn't.
Who was that?
That was outdoors at the park right by the Teddy peanut butter place.
Was it a vigil?
It was a vigil, yeah. It might have been the first Everett vigil.
I was there.
Yeah, I spoke there. Matt did his poetry. And I didn't get to meet Matt, but, you know, everyone's like, Matt Ganem, he's, you know, he does all this work. He does all this recovery advocacy work. So I met him. I went to Banyan, and, you know, he said, you know, you don't have real experience in the field, so we're going to have to start you off at entry-level position. I said, you know what, as long as there's room to grow, I'm down to do it. And then I just loved every minute about working at Banyan. I love the culture we provide. I think, like, our greatness, like the what's great about Banyan is all predicated on like the staff there. You know, every staff from Matt, you know, who's our executive director, he's co-owner of Banyan Mass, you know, down to like, you know, whoever in the place. There's no top to bottom. We're all just kind of equals there, and we approach everything like we're equal. Like, clients can walk into Matt's office and go play chess with them if they're having a bad day. Or clients will ask me and Matt, will you guys come and take us to the basketball court, like after they finish the day doing like groups all day? Like, yeah, we'll take you to the court. Like, you're not going to find that at any treatment center around. Like, we're fully engaged with our client. Like, and that's what makes us awesome, I think. That's why we have a pretty good...
You figure at that point in time he's vulnerable.
Right.
You know, and he's seeking some companionship.
They're seeking, and it's connection.
Right.
We connect with them. I remember like one of the first clients that I met at Banyan when I started working there. You know, he was just like me. He was just like me at that age, 19 years old, really like rambunctious kid, always like he was getting kicked out of the groups there, like, and I was just like, wow, that was me getting kicked out of class, so that was me in treatment, like getting thrown out of a treatment facility. So at Banyan, we don't kick anybody out like that. We just try to like talk to them, and like I talked to him, I'm like, dude, you're just so like me, bro. Like, what would it take for you to like, to like break the habit and like try to get yourself well? And he was just like, I don't really, he wasn't really into 12 steps. He wasn't really into like being in the group. So I kind of took a liking to him. So I would take time, like after the groups got done, and I would play basketball with him one-on-one. And like that's just some of the things that we do, like to break the monotony of like regular treatment. Like not everything works for everybody,
Right.
It's
Everybody's an individual.
right, and we don't take an individual approach. We try to meet people where they're at, accommodate them, make their process through treatment, I wouldn't say comfortable. It takes some getting uncomfortable, but make it like as painless as possible. If someone wants their skateboard, we allow them to have their skateboard at the house so they can, go out front and, mess around on that because it's therapeutic. Like
Right.
I know for me, like we talk about boxing's therapeutic, basketball's therapeutic, fashion's therapeutic. For Matt, poetry's therapeutic. So we know that it's just about expression. It's about like getting that expression out of you, having a channel, having like an outlet, and Banyan does that so well. We have seven therapists now, 5 of which are master's level clinicians. They do excellent work. Some of them are like trauma focused. Some of them are co-occurring focused. So they handle like the dual diagnosis, borderline personality, bipolar disorder, OCD, anxiety, severe depression. And because we're of the thinking that you have to focus on the mental health in order to grow.
Absolutely.
To grow in your treatment. I think it all stems from that. We're all treating something at the end of the day.
Right.
We're all
Absolutely.
treating something.
That's why we self-medicate.
That's why we self-medicate, yeah. And we understand that. We offer art therapy, like you said. Some people like to paint. We offer art
It's a gradual thing because when Marion first came up here,
Yeah.
you just have to learn what it takes to reach the person that needs the help.
Exactly.
And that's a good thing because
Right.
sometimes, like I said, it's a physical thing. Sometimes it's just even writing.
Even writing.
I
yeah.
mean, Matt could do a class on teaching people how to write poetry.
And he does, and that's the thing.
He
He
does?
does. He goes right in there. He has them write. They have to write X amount of lines, fill up the page, and then they break them off in groups. Everyone has to participate. Then he has one representative from the group share their poetry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Good job, Matt.
yeah, and it's a way of like giving them some self-esteem, some self-worth, saying like, look, I accomplished this. This is cool. I never thought I could do this. I'm uncomfortable, like I'm a little, they might be shy to get up there,
Yeah.
but once you get through that, there's like growth that happens, there's growth through uncomfortability.
Right. And that's the one thing I love about Matt. He doesn't, he is so humble.
He's very humble, yeah.
And I remember when we used to go, we used to all go out once a month into Boston. I don't know if you heard of Hand Delivered Hope.
No, I don't think I
Okay.
have, sorry.
So we used to go in about 9 o'clock and go to Kinsale's, which is right there in Government Center. And that's around the time where either you're going to get into a Pine Street Inn
Okay.
or a shelter. And we'd walk around. We'd leave from there. Well, this particular winter, we must have had 10 feet of snow.
Oh, yeah.
So, every time we went out, we would be walking over snow mountains.
Banks,
They're
yeah,
almost
yeah,
like
yeah.
mountains. And I used to always I would be there with Matt. There's a few other, but I would be the only old lady, or there'd be 2 of us, and then 4 or 5 young guys. They'd have to carry our bags. But the one thing about Matt is that he always made sure that we had extra socks
Yeah.
because he lived there.
Yeah.
he knew what it was
knew what you
like
were
to
gonna be
live
up
out in the
against.
street.
Yeah.
And he would take his time with each person that we talked to.
Yeah.
And one day he probably did it more than once, but I noticed that he took the socks off his own feet and gave it to a man that was in, it was a hotel lobby, and he had his pants up to here and his feet were all red from the cold, because it was really cold besides being snowy. And he went and gave him his socks.
Yeah. And that's the type, that's the type of stuff that gets passed down to us. We all learn how to approach people, how to treat people through, our leaders. And that's why.
Yeah, but not only that, it's a personal experience, right? Because you've been there.
We've been there, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not everybody's been homeless.
No, right.
But a lot of times that they're on their own.
Right.
Maybe they don't feel they're worthy
Right.
of others.
Yeah.
Knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they kind of go within themselves.
You can give them, that's that empathy that you have towards this situation, yeah.
Right. So I love you, Matt. You've done a great job. And I remember that time that we were sitting on our way down to Foxborough, and you had left Wicked Sober, and you were so upset about, did I make the wrong choice?
Yeah.
You didn't.
Nope.
And I told you then, no matter what you do, you will always succeed.
Yeah.
Because you're that kind of a
'Cause
person.
he's that guy, yeah. We love you, Matt.
That's right. I hope you're watching. And it's really been a great time having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Want to show some boxing moves away?
I don't know if I can do that right now.
No, do you?
Well, you want to hit the mitts?
No, do
I
you
want
stretch?
you to show the move.
Do you stretch like Orlando does? Like he
Yeah,
had
yeah.
us trenching and.
Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, get loose for a few rounds. Yeah.
Yeah,
I went through. I actually got certified to train through Orlando's class. We did like a 2-weekend class at the Somerville Boxing Club, and Orlando certified a bunch of us. He actually, thank you, Orlando. He did it for me for free. There's a charge behind it. That's his business, boxing for fitness. But
right.
he's a great friend of mine. Great guy.
He told me, he says, I was going to have Michael come in. So now I got a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
The Michael he was talking about.
I'm the Michael, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And did you know Jimmy Lally?
Jimmy Lally. Sounds so familiar.
Yeah, he's a boxer. He was a Golden Glove.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man, yeah. From Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah. I met him in the Sears building in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a small world.
Small
I went all the
world.
way to Chicago to
And
find.
you meet a Chelsea guy.
That's right.
Yeah, wow. That's a cool story.
Yeah, it is. I was on my way to Notre Dame.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we stopped off there first before going to Illinois.
I want to check out Chicago. That's one place that I
Beautiful
haven't
place.
been. that I'd
Really
love to
beautiful
go
place.
to. Yeah.
Well, we only have like 15 seconds.
Okay. Wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why don't you want to give them a phone number for Banyan in case they need for treatment?
If anybody's in need of help, you could call me directly. My number is 978-473-5210. I can streamline any process there may be to get into Banyan. Even if it's not to get into Banyan, I'd love to help anybody out, no matter what the situation is. So that's what we do, help people navigate the ways to get into treatment, mass funded, through Banyan, wherever it is. Just give me a call.
Again, his number is?
978-473-5210.
Good, you didn't say it too fast.
No, it did good. All right.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.
I want to thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It means a lot.
And like I said, keep up the good work.
I will, hopefully. Yeah, I will.
No, you will.
Yeah, I will.
Not hopefully.
Yeah, no,
I am
will.
going to be there. I'm never going that route again.
That's right.
That's what you have
That's
to say
right.
to yourself every day.
That's right.
You're awesome.
Thank you. So are
So
you.
I'm going to give you a hug.
All right. Do I take this off?
Yeah. Take it off. Nice, everyone. I'm going to give Michael a hug. I can't even get this off, but that's all right. I'm on a leash.
Just didn't want to rip it off. That was awesome.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you so much.
Yeah, good night, everybody. We're still on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Facebook.
Facebook Live.
No, not Facebook. YouTube. And I can't get this thing